she was developing and her relationship with her father. The evidence regarding her short relationship with her mother is fragmentary, but nevertheless revealing in places. We also have Elizabeth's household accounts from October 1551 to September 1552, which reveal much about her lifestyle, the relationships she shared, and how she spent her money. These add a splash of colour to the period of her life when she was concentrating on rehabilitating her image in the aftermath of the Seymour scandal and living as a wealthy landowner and mistress of her own household. Accounts survive from some of those who knew her, most notably Jane Dormer, later Duchess of Feria. Though Jane witnessed some of the events of Elizabeth's youth firsthand, her affinity to Elizabeth's sister Mary made her naturally hostile to Elizabeth when the relationship between the two sisters deteriorated. This becomes apparent when reading Jane's account. In one instance, she refers to a great lady who knew Elizabeth very well, being a girl of 12 or 13, who told me that she was proud and disdainful and related to me some particulars of her scornful behaviour, which much blemished the handsomeness and beauty of her person. Some of Elizabeth's known behaviour suggests that there is a degree of truth in this, but there is no escaping Jane's obvious dislike of Elizabeth. The same is true of the ambassador's reports of Eustace Chapweis and Simon Renard, both of whom, though well informed in certain respects, were no friends to Elizabeth, thanks to their loathing of her mother and proximity to Mary. Others were more flattering, perhaps too much so. The chronicler William Camden, for example, wrote his account of Elizabeth's life at the suggestion of William Cecil. Although Camden did not begin the work until 1607, several years after Elizabeth's death, it is an extremely complimentary work. Some of his sources are uncertain, for although he had access to many who would have known Elizabeth, he only refers specifically to two. By the same token, the miraculous preservation of the Lady Elizabeth, now Queen of England, by the martyrologist John Fox, is also heavily biased in Elizabeth's favour. It was published in 1563 as part of his Acts and Monuments, better known as the Book of Martyrs, and was highly critical of the sufferings Protestants had been forced to endure. It was a highly influential text that served to blacken the reputation, unfairly in many respects, of Mary I. But in terms of the narrative concerning Elizabeth and her treatment, much of it seems to be accurate and can be partially corroborated by other sources. Fox was evidently well informed and obviously had a source who was well placed to know the truth of Elizabeth's experiences during Mary's reign. David Starkey has surmised that it was Dorothy Stafford, the second wife of Elizabeth's uncle by marriage, William Stafford, who supplied Fox with most of the details for the miraculous preservation. And that is certainly a possibility, although she had not been present herself at any of the events documented. Dorothy and her family were living in Geneva, but she would later be greatly favoured by Elizabeth, and may be the same Mrs. Stafford who is referenced in her 1551 to 1552 accounts. Documentary sources are extremely effective when it comes to piecing together the complex jigsaw of Elizabeth's youth, but they are not all we have to go on. We are also fortunate to have several portraits of young Elizabeth, most notably the stunning example in the Royal Collection. She appears, too, in The Family of Henry VIII, and another smaller version of a family portrait in the collection of the Duke of Buccleuch and Queensberry, which is a copy of a work that was probably painted during the reign of Edward VI. A further portrait of her can be found at Hever Castle, all of these together serving as evidence of Elizabeth's appearance and confirming her status and value as a member of the royal family. In addition, there are several surviving pieces of material culture that we can link to Elizabeth, including two of the beautifully embroidered New Year's gifts that she gave to her stepmother, Katherine Parr. Not only do these showcase her handwriting, but they also reveal her talent when it came to needlework. Another surviving object from later in her life is the Chequers ring, discussed in Chapter 3. The ring, now at Chequers, the Buckinghamshire residence of the Prime Minister, is a stunning example of a jewel that was owned by Elizabeth. Given its size and the fact that the two tiny portraits within it would only have been visible when Elizabeth chose to view them, it is possible that it served as a personal reminder to her of the mother she had barely known.